What's up, everybody? What's up? Welcome back into Let's Talk Live here on the LTL Media channel. Hopefully everybody can hear me all right. Can you guys hear me all right? Let me know in the chat, because sometimes I feel like my microphone doesn't work. But anyway, nice to see everybody back here. We're going to get into my continuing coverage of Enrique Delgado-Garcia. There's going to be 3 formal indictments that are read on Thursday, April 2nd. And then we'll have another following indictment read on April 12th. April 12th will be the other indictment. All right, everybody's saying great work. Good. Can you hear me? Cool. All right, everybody can hear me. All right, so let's do this. It's been a little while since I've had a guest on the show, and I'm so happy to bring back a great friend of mine, a great friend of the channel, a great person, a great attorney. And we're going to have go through the formal indictments for you guys this evening. We're going to go through the February 9th press conference from David Meyer and Andrea Campbell. I'm sorry, I rushed to get home from work. I feel like I'm still not prepared, but I'll get into the rhythm here in a second. We're going to go through that press conference as well. And then if we have time tonight, we're going to talk about the culture and our perceived culture of the Mass State Police Academy and the Mass State Police in whole. But let's not do this and not wait too much longer. Let's bring in my wonderful guest, attorney Nan Gallagher. How are you, Nan?
I'm great. How are you, Brian?
I'm well. I feel like I haven't seen you in like forever, even though like we talk, you know, pretty often offline, but I haven't physically seen you in forever. So it's nice to see you back on the show.
Oh, I've always loved coming back. I feel like I'm coming home again. And I'm watching all of your streams. You're really putting forth great content. And it's nice to lay eyes on you, like side by side.
Well, I appreciate that. And look, you know, it took 17 months to get to this point right now. A month ago, we had four formal indictments passed down or handed down, I guess you could say, to 4 state troopers that were involved in supervisory roles at the Massachusetts State Police Academy. And this is my official FOIA request that I put into the Attorney General. And it's funny, I actually got this back in a timely manner, which was nice. And they were polite. Like when I initially reached out, they're like, hey, we need 5 more business days if that's fine. And then within a couple days later, I actually got the FOIA request, unlike when I FOIA the state police and it takes me 9 months to get a piece of information.
I know, it's like when you're surprised that they were responsive, you kind of question yourself saying, what is going on here? But maybe that's indicative of the fact that there's going to be a speedy prosecution of this matter.
I hope so.
After all the delay.
Yeah, it's been a very long time, but now, as I got to understand a lot more about this case and how the complexity to the investigation itself, I think it's warranted, and I was very critical through this entire process when I found out that David Meyer, I was like kind of like hounding him at his office, like, give us an update, and like, of course, he doesn't have to answer to me. They answered to me once, which was really nice. And they said, look, we're still, investigating this case. And, we'll have some formal updates in the near future. I guess kind of the standard answer. But I've also been very critical of David Meyer, but now understanding the complexity of this investigation, reading into, what's been sent to me and talking to sources, it was a very complex, process. 150 people end up getting interviewed with over 350 exhibits. It's a massive case.
Oh, yeah. That is massive. I know it takes time. And a lot of times in many criminal prosecutions, which are preceded always by investigations, the public has questions. They naturally develop impatience. You're seeing it now with the Nancy Guthrie case nationally. That's just one example. And I'm not saying they even have prosecution looming in that matter. But a lot of people, even with Koberger, a lot of people in a short time, they expect quick answers and quick resolution. And that's not always the case. And it's actually not always best. In Koberger's case, it took roughly about a month and a half, which was really scary for the community. And there was mixed messages coming out from law enforcement. But ultimately, you want to make sure a prosecutor wants to make sure that they put together an airtight case before they bring forth charges to be investigated by a grand jury, whether or not there's going to be formal charges that come from that. So, this took a long time, but I'm really happy that we're here. And it's an important matter no matter how you slice this onion. It's so important. It's important not only for justice for Enrique and his family, but for other cadets and trainees so that perhaps things change moving forward. And I dare say they may have already started to.
Yeah, and I know a lot of people had, like that was the whole answer is like, why is this taking so long? Why is it? And you got to remember, you're dealing with what? Union representatives and lawyers. And that's the immediate thing that a lot of, from what I understand, talking to sources, immediately what people did in the academy, they lawyered up right away,
Totally.
and then you have union representatives. Go ahead. I'm sorry.
Yeah, lawyers. Well, you can't live with them.
Those damn lawyers.
Can't live without them. But no, you're right.
Yeah.
I mean, I was seeing it on another on the Young Jerks earlier. There's another local issue to you going on, and lawyers are getting in the way. So sometimes I will say, as an attorney, other attorneys frustrate me. I don't frustrate me though.
All right, so let's get to this. So I actually got this FOIA request back from the Attorney General's office here in Massachusetts, and the 4 names of the troopers that are facing criminal charges, and we'll page through those indictments really quick. I really want to get to this press conference because it's very important, and it will fill in a lot of the intricate details of what we've heard. Of course, they're not going to tell us everything, but some of the things that are going to help with, getting more information about this case. So Sergeant Lieutenant, I saw Sergeant Lieutenant, but Sergeant Jennifer Penton, Trooper Edwin Rodriguez, Trooper David Montanez, and Trooper Casey Lamont have been charged in Enrique Delgado-Garcia's death. And I'm just going to go on here. This was kind of interesting, and I wanted to just kind of read some of this really quick. Today, we enclose 9 pages of the record that may be responsive to requests subject to disclosure under the Public Records Law. We note that these records are available on the Massachusetts Trial Court online search portal. I couldn't find them.
I couldn't either.
No. So be advised, any other records that are not available through the Massachusetts Trial Court would exempt the accordance. I want to get into some of the language here, as they would constitute investigatory materials related to an open case that would reveal confidential sources of information that are necessary compiled out of the public view and law enforcement officials. The disclosure, which would be compromise efficient law enforcement by prematurely releasing information about the nature of the investigation and or, listen to this, causing a chilling effect in individuals to speak freely with law enforcement, that such disclosure would be in the public interest. That's the first time I've ever seen that language in a FOIA request. What do you make of this, Nan? If you could explain this to the audience.
Yes. So, I mean, to most people, it's a bunch of word salad. But what I take away, and by seeing this very relatively new type of language in a letter like this, especially a response to a FOIA request, that is signaling to me that there are other materials besides indictments and the like that have the names of sources, individuals who may have been interviewed, or confidential informants who came forward snitching on one another or snitching on supervisors, etc., other troopers. And they meaning the Commonwealth does not want to disclose those names right now because they are part of an active investigation. They don't want to burn their sources, which tells me this is going to be an incredibly revealing trial. If this gets to trial, and I know we're kind of on the cusp of indictments, on arraignments at this point,
Right.
but there's people in the mix here who tattled. That's what it's telling me.
Yeah. And the other thing I think about this too, and hopefully we can get to talk about this towards the end of the show, is I think it's going to be very revealing of the culture that we're going to find out, the culture that, and I want to give Colonel Noble a clean slate. He was put in after this, after this whole tragedy that happened at the academy, he was appointed director and colonel of the state police. So I want to give him a little bit of a clean slate here because he came into obviously a mess. And I've been a little bit critical of him. I did a show on him last night, and it just felt like a lot of word salad. You're not going to get so much out of him. And you know what? It's kind of like, understandably so. I know, this is a very, very serious thing. I mean, these are institutions that people go to. They're giving their full trust to become a a certified state trooper in our state, and someone died as a result of that. You're trusting this institution with your life, and this person died. And this needs to absolutely be cleaned up. And I hope that as we get to the resolution in this case, and I hope everything for the Delgado-Garcia family, I really do, that this comes to someone being held responsible for Enrique's death. But this needs to be used as, this case closes. This needs to be used as an example, I think, to academies around the nation and maybe around the world, of standard operating practices, supervision, leadership, and all those other things that encompass under that umbrella, that this can be used, as that example of what not to do, and to not have a situation like this ever happen again.
I couldn't agree more. It's a good example of what not to do. Another reason why this could be a case that moves forward and is learned from in other academies is that the individuals who run, conduct, and supervise these types of training programs and these specific exercises within the training programs, these are individuals who frankly probably think, okay, we're here, we're conducting it, we're overseeing it to what degree. But this is an example of where they need to understand that if they don't do their job diligently, if they exercise any type of neglect or reckless disregard for the
Right.
safety of those involved in these exercises, that they could be held criminally responsible. So, an example that is separate, but I would give to you and your audience is in the last year or so, involving and it involved an M at a schooling, a mass M at a schooling
Mhm.
school out in, I think it was Michigan, where parents were held criminally responsible for the actions of their son. And it wasn't necessarily that they allowed him to do what he did, and he had been criminally prosecuted and convicted. But what ended up happening was they just allegedly missed steps, and contributed to the problem. So it's a loose example, but I like the example because we're seeing it here.
Mhm.
These officers will unfortunately at this point learn from this, and whether or not that they are ultimately acquitted isn't the issue.
Mhm.
The issue is people are watching, and
Right.
they have a tremendous responsibility. And definitely we're going to talk about the culture that's involved here at different training facilities.
And you glitched, by the way.
I know.
It
See,
wouldn't be a
everybody, I
show without
told
a
you.
glitch. All right, so let's get
We'll find the source of my glitching at some point.
we'll page through this because I really want to get to that press conference. It is very important that we get to that tonight. So Sergeant Jennifer Penton has been charged with causing serious bodily injury to a participant in a physical exercise program, and that is the law. If you want to look that up, GLC 26540, you can look that up. I'm not going to read through these. I just want to go through this really quick. Again, because David Meyer is going to read through these in the press conference. And then obviously charged with involuntary manslaughter, Sergeant Jennifer Penton. And then she also gets charged with perjury. So perjury, which means that you lied to the grand jury. I'm probably assuming that's what the perjury charge is.
Yes, and just on this point, Brian, with regard
Sure.
to Sergeant Penton, the issue for her as far as perjury is concerned is, for your audience, for them to note, is that she allegedly and is being accused of lying at the grand jury as to the timing of when she first
Yes.
learned about his complaints concerning, concussion-like symptoms. So that is what it is claimed that she lied about, and that's going to become a really seminal issue in their trial.
Yeah. And I want to make sure I state this again and make sure that people understand this. This is very, very clear. The 4 officers that have been indicted in this case, none of them were involved in the actual boxing tactical exercise. So they were not matched with Enrique. I want to make sure that people completely understand this. This is a failure of operations and supervision. They were supposed to be responsible. They were supposed to be showing leadership. And as far as I know from my sources, the person that was involved in the tactic exercise has been cleared because he was just doing what he was told. He was just doing what he's told. And that's what I understand at this point. I don't know. There may be some other charges down the road, and you're going to hear that in this presser as well, too. So this still is an open investigation, as we saw in this FOIA request as well.
I
Uh,
completely think
so then,
that comment was very well put, because a lot of people went into this saying, what happened to the guy who he was in the altercation
correct.
with, the exercise, and that's not the issue for the public. The issue is the supervision, the operation, perhaps whether there was hazing. Also, that perjury charge against Jennifer Penton at the sergeant level, that is an issue of public trust. If you can have a sergeant at the Massachusetts Police Academy, the trainings facility, giving truthful testimony, allegedly. If she gave untruthful testimony to a grand jury, what does that tell the public about the level of trust you can put in your law enforcement
Right.
at the ground level, the ones who are training your future law enforcement?
Yeah, that's great. Wonderfully stated. Okay, now we go to Trooper Edwin Rodriguez, and I think a lot of people defaulted right away. And I can tell you a little bit about his background. He has an amateur. I think actually he might have a professional. I have to look at, but I definitely know he's an amateur boxing background. I've seen some videos of him on the internet. He's actually a very good amateur fighter, and I think a lot of people defaulted right away and said that had to be the guy. It is not the guy. He was part of the supervision, the leadership, the supposed supervision and leadership. But again, he has been charged with serious bodily injury, the same charge as Jennifer Penton, and involuntary manslaughter. And then we move on to David Montanez, again, the same charge, causing bodily injury and also the involuntary manslaughter. And then finally, Casey Lamont, same charge, causing bodily injury to participant in a physical exercise training program and involuntary manslaughter as well. I know I paged through that really quick. It is very important that we do get to this press conference, so I want to get to that right away. And let's pull that up. So this was on February 2nd, 2026, the formal press conference. You're going to hear from David Meyer and Attorney General Andrea Campbell. Here we go.
Good afternoon, everyone. Thank you for being here.
Nan, if you want me to pause, just say pause so we can talk. I'm sure you're going to want to say some stuff here, but here we go.
September 13th, 2024, Massachusetts State Trooper Enrique Delgado-Garcia died while training to become a Massachusetts State Trooper. He sought to become a state trooper to fulfill his dream of serving and protecting the people of the Commonwealth of Massachusetts.
And really quick, I just want to say hi to everybody that came in from the Young Jerks. Thank you for being here. And I want to thank Mike for redirecting his stream over here. I really do appreciate that. So Mike, if you're watching, thank you so much. You had a great show earlier. I was listening a little bit on the ride home, and I'm curious to go back and listen to the rest of your show because I didn't get to finish. But thank you, Mike, if you're in the chat. And I appreciate all the jerks coming over here and joining the chat here. Go ahead, Nan.
And Brian, before you hit unpause, I did want to address Natalie Diana's question in the chat, because this will help frame this issue for people interested in Enrique's matter. As far as involuntary manslaughter is concerned in the Commonwealth of Massachusetts, and it's actually has some variations amongst different states, but in Massachusetts, a lot of people think, well, what does this mean? Is that intentional, etc.? It's not. What it means is you have to comport yourself in such a way that you caused or contributed to the death of an individual, that there is a wanton or reckless disregard to the safety of an individual, and you needed to know or you should have known that your conduct or your inaction led to the consequence, meaning the death of an individual, and that there's a high likelihood based on your actions or your inactions that substantial harm would result from that. It's think of it like negligence where you didn't do something, you did something, it caused a result, but it's heightened because what happens is when there's a death and you did something so careless, so reckless, you just really should have paid better attention. You knew that if you didn't pay better attention to what was going on, and in this case it may end up being the signs or symptomology of Enrique before the second day of sparring. That's my word. I don't know what word they would use. I'm calling it sparring. In the boxing match, I don't think they had a ring, but in the boxing
It was
circle,
not. There was no ring. Yep, there
yeah,
was no
there's no
ring. It was
ring
on a mat. Yeah, it was on a
on a
mat. Yep.
mat. Right.
Yep.
So if you knew or had reason to know, or you should have known that you should have paid better attention to what was going on, including symptomology of Enrique, before allowing him to go into the second day of sparring, and you knew that if you didn't pay better attention, it was possible that some type of harm, including but not necessarily required to include death, could result, you're going to get charged with involuntary manslaughter. I hope that answers your question, Natalie.
Yeah, and I want to just read off what the actual, if there's any type of conviction. So in Massachusetts, involuntary manslaughter falls under general manslaughter punishment statute. The maximum penalty is up to 20 years in a state prison, or instead up to 2.5 years in jail or the House of Corrections, and a fine up to $1,000. For perjury, in a regular case, the maximum penalty is 20 years in the state prison, or instead up to 2.5 years in jail, or a fine up to $1,000. If perjury is committed in the trial of an indictment for a capital crime, the statute allows life imprisonment or a term of any years. So that would be the actual penalties under these indictments. Go ahead, Nan.
Thanks for going over them, because I did not look those up. And as your audience may know, or new audience members don't know, I'm not from your planet. I'm from New Jersey, New York area. But what I would also mention before you get into the press conference is it's incredibly unusual and rare for perjury to be prosecuted. So the fact that Penton, the sergeant, is going to be charged and arraigned for perjury in addition to the other 2 charges against her, this is somewhat unheard of and gives me a very clear sign that they've got her dead to rights on lying about when she knew or should have known about the concussive-like symptomology of Enrique. So it's just, as many times people say, oh my God, this person perjured themselves, prosecutors rarely prosecute it. So this is notable. We want to keep an eye on that.
And I think also, you got to look at it too, is that she's a sergeant. So she had the higher rank in all of these other individuals where they were just troopers. And they're probably saying, the type of like, you should have known, like that kind of talk, like you should have known better. This is your duty to do this. This is your duty to report. This is your duty to protect. And what they're finding here is that she didn't do that. And then she lied. And again, just a little footnote for all of you. Jennifer Penton was in that series Boston Finest with who? Brian Albert.
I don't know if I knew that. Okay.
Yeah. Yeah. All right. So let's play here.
After Enrique's death and after consultation with Worcester District Attorney Joe Early, I appointed an independent investigator, Attorney David Meyer, to review the facts surrounding Enrique's death. I want to thank Enrique's family, his friends, his fellow trainees, and the public for their tremendous patience as this process unfolded. I know that to some, this process has felt long and opaque. Independent investigations are careful and thorough by necessity. In order to maintain the integrity of their process, certain aspects cannot be shared with the public. That confidentiality is by design. to ensure fairness for everyone involved. Enrique was a public servant. He began his career in the Worcester District Attorney's Office as a victim witness advocate. His family has spoken openly about his intention of being someone who made a difference in the community and his dreams of becoming a Massachusetts state trooper. He was a son, a brother, an uncle, and a friend. Enrique should be alive today. Given the extraordinary nature of these events and the complexity of this case, it was necessary to appoint an independent outside investigator. Death investigations are typically handled by the local district attorney. In this case, however, Worcester DA Joe Early appropriately determined that his office had a conflict because Enrique worked in his office as a victim witness advocate. Following conversations with DA Early,
and I know I was very critical about that, Nan, at the start, and I think it was the best thing for Joe Early to do. I just don't like what they did to Enrique's family in that first press conference.
Yep.
And you can see the uncomfortability there. They were there to collect some belongings of Enrique and meet the people that he worked with there in the office. And on their way out, they get ushered through and surprised with this press conference. And the only way to get out at that point is to go through that area. So I felt like it was an ambush. And that's, kind of what I found through talking with the family is like, they weren't prepared for that day. And it's very uncomfortable interview to watch.
Yeah, it was. I remember that it was absolutely uncomfortable to watch. And Early made the right decision by deciding properly that there was a conflict of interest, but I don't necessarily know that was properly handled and communicated to the family in a manner in which they fully understood it. And at the time, going back, I wonder, and I don't know, if they felt that this was being either mishandled or juggled around, or, they weren't getting straight answers, or, that the state
Right.
Commonwealth was playing hot potato. So this is, it's probably been a comfort to them to some degree to see this move forward to criminal prosecution level.
Yeah. I'm glad we're at this point. By the way, Mike from Young Jerks in the house. Mikey, thank you so much. If you didn't hear me earlier, for sending the jerks over here and hanging out with us tonight. I appreciate that, brother. All right, let's play through
We determined that Enrique and his family deserved an investigation that was completely impartial and devoid of any perception or appearance of conflict. That's why I appointed Attorney Meyer. Attorney Meyer has extensive experience both as a prosecutor and a defense attorney, including 12 years in the Suffolk County District Attorney's Office, where he supervised, investigated, and prosecuted death investigations within Suffolk County. He has since served as partner at Todd & Weld. In this case, David investigated the facts of Enrique's death and the circumstances that surrounded it, just as my office or any other district attorney's office and its investigators would have done. My office was briefed about the investigation along the way and provided logistical support. Because of the design of the investigation, Attorney Meyer had his own independent team to conduct the investigation, and he had full autonomy in making investigatory and charging decisions in this case, which he will discuss shortly.
There were former FBI agents on his team. That's how serious they took this. There was a former FBI profiler on his team. That's how serious this was.
Sorry, Brian. All of these little nuances are really going to start becoming regularly spoken about. Like, as this progresses post-arraignment, like, this is going to draw a lot of attention. And I just wanted to take the opportunity to personally commend you on all of your steadfast coverage and support for Enrique, his memory, and that of his family throughout this, ranging from your attention to it, the billboards that were put up. And I know just a special thanks to your chat and supporters for helping you pay for those billboards, helped keep eyes on this matter so Enrique did not just become another casualty of corruption and ignorance and cover up in the Commonwealth. You've done great work, and I look forward to seeing more from you.
Well, I appreciate and listen, I appreciate you being part of this too, because you did some of those earlier Enrique streams with me as well. And the people that have come to this channel and this chat, through my earnings here, it allowed me to do this 90 days in, to put up 2 billboards. And I wanted to give back to the community, and I also wanted to give back to the Delgado-Garcia family, because I didn't feel like it was getting the attention. I felt like it was a splash on the radar, and this is so important. Like, this is a very important case. Like, people don't understand the ramifications of all of this, and it's like we have to look at all the what this is that we're bringing in people into an institution that's preparing officers to come out and serve our community, and someone dies in the act of that, of the negligence of the police academy and people that were under leadership and supervision in this police academy. Like, people should be massively outraged about this, because where do you do? I mean, do you crack down and strip the whole institution? And I'm hoping that's what Colonel Noble has done now in this situation. We do know, was about a year into his stay as the new colonel, he did roll out a new academy agenda. He did roll out a new police, a state police, agenda in rules and operations and regs. They need to follow that to a T now. Like, and again, like I was saying earlier, that I hope at the conclusion of this case, that this is used as an example of what not to do. We can't have these systematic breakdowns in our academies anymore. We can't put regular public servants off the street that want to serve our communities into these positions to go through these training and become. From what I know about Enrique, what I've learned about him, this guy was a fine young man, and I truly believe he would have been one of those good guys that would have got out into our community and done it the right way. And unfortunately, his life is cut early, and we're not going to see the fruits of that labor.
Right. And really this is a question, but whether it was hazing or not, I would want to know that if I sent my son to a police academy training facility and program, that not only would he be safe, that he would come out skilled and strong on the other side of it, but that if he came forward and voiced, and we're starting to develop this now, an understanding of it, but if he came forward and voiced any concern about his health or well-being or how he was feeling, I would want that academy to take those complaints very seriously and not to disregard them or think that he was making things up or being a baby or whining about it. And that's also something that the community should care about as well, that these trainees are protected and supported, and that there's not going to be any shame or retaliation or any negative viewing of an individual who does come forward complaining about pain, symptoms, anything of the like. So a lot of good things are set to come out of this, and I'm really looking forward to seeing that happen.
And just as my opinion here, I think that it did have a very toxic culture there from what we're going to hear, and hopefully we can get to the video tonight. Gianni Baptiste, that was, he kind of went through the academy in what was 6 weeks out, he got let go. So he wasn't there when this happened, but he had his view. And I think there was a major cultural issue in there. I don't know what it is now. And I hope that Colonel Noble has straightened all of this out, and that, this culture is reeled in, because we're going to see, he gets asked, like, what is the culture of the State Police Academy? You go, So to me, that signals that there was some real problems there, obviously, because look where we are now. All right, here we go.
I am grateful to Attorney Meyer for his thorough efforts to follow the facts and to seek accountability to those responsible for Enrique's death. In no way is this investigation and the charges it has yielded a condemnation of all law enforcement. The men and women who choose to serve protect our communities, often in difficult and dangerous circumstances. Our law enforcement members, including those who serve in my very office, are essential to public safety and the rule of law. I know just how much the Commonwealth benefits from the men and women in uniform who serve the public, because I see it up close every day. Many officers go beyond their law enforcement jobs, mentoring young people, supporting community programs, actively working in our communities in a very challenging time to build trust. Their service deserves respect and recognition. And just as they protect us, it is our responsibility to ensure that our inspiring officers at the Massachusetts Police Training Academy are protected from preventable harms and to seek accountability when serious incidents occur. There is nothing more serious than the loss of a life. We can both honor the men and women who serve while also still ensuring accountability within a system, especially when someone dies. Lastly, while Attorney Meyer's investigation focused on Enrique's death, there must be serious discussion and action with respect to reforms. I know that the state police colonel, Jeffrey Noble, has already undertaken efforts to effectuate.
There you go. That leads me to that culture problem in there, Nan. That statement right there.
Yes. And when she talks about reforms, you know, that's such a good word. I wish I even thought of that. That's the biggest goal here. Reform the program. And that really should be not only statewide, every state should be looking at Enrique's case and learning from it. And so far, even beyond police training, all different training facilities. And I'm interested to see, because this is really supervisory culpability. The charges that were brought, and she's going to go into them, so I'll let you roll. But these charges have wide-ranging effects on society.
I agree.
And I'm grateful to him, and I look forward to supporting him in those endeavors going forward. Because this is an ongoing legal matter, there may be some questions that I cannot answer in order to preserve the integrity of Attorney Meyer's case. We appreciate your continued patience. And at this time, I'd like to turn over the podium to Attorney David Meyer.
Thank you, Attorney General Campbell, and good afternoon. On the day that I was appointed as independent counsel, I made a commitment to the family of Enrique Delgado-Garcia, to the Massachusetts State Police, to the public, and to the criminal justice system, that I would conduct the investigation professionally, thoroughly, and independently. I pledged to follow the facts and the law, to perform my work conscientiously and responsibly, and to exercise my independent judgment to reach whatever results the facts and the law dictated. I committed not to permit the speed of the investigation, the length of the investigation, or any other outside factors to influence the investigative process. I owed that to the family of Enrique Delgado-Garcia, to the Massachusetts State Police, to the public, and to the criminal justice system. When Attorney General Campbell appointed me, I knew nothing about the facts surrounding Enrique Delgado-Garcia's death or about the State Police Training Academy. I had no preconceived notion of the potential outcome of the investigation. With the support of an independent investigative team, my assignment was to gather the facts through any and all available investigative means, taking as much time as we needed to do things the right way, and to follow those facts and the applicable law wherever they may lead. I fully recognize that the investigative process has been lengthy, and it has been conducted in silence, without public comment, at least on my part. That silence has been purposeful. It is a direct reflection of the nature of the investigation and of my ethical and legal obligations. At the same time, I can assure the public that the investigative process has been searching.
Real quick, I'm just get to this. Simon, thank you. Says, thank you for covering this, Brian. Also for Nan Gallagher, giving some useful thoughts. Could listen to her all night. Yeah, listen, if you guys want, productive conversations, if you want productive, presentations, then come here and hang out on LTL Media. That's what we do here, and that's what I'm going to continue to do here. That was always my mission here, is just to give back to the people that watch me, give back to the people in the community. Listen, I'm not 100% right all the time. We make mistakes, but we work through those mistakes. We learn. I've learned so much being here on this platform since 2021. And I've learned a lot about you, all the people that come into this chat and support this channel. And I've had the greatest opportunities in life to meet some really life-changing people. And I have one of those people here on my panel today, because if it did not have this channel, I would have never met Nan Gallagher. And I'm so thankful for her time, her expertise, and, her helping, grow LTL Media and have people come here and want to hang out with us and learn the law and learn about these situations and be able to translate that information to whatever community you live in. So Nan, I appreciate you, and I appreciate this chat.
Thank you.
Yeah, absolutely. And Steve, yeah, good. Thanks for checking in, man. Good to see you all the way out in San Jose. Thank you so much. No, you rock, man. You rock. All right, here we go.
It has been exhaustive, and it has been without outside influence. Given some of the challenges posed by the investigation,
no one's
early
getting my
last year,
notifications,
I
man.
sought judicial
Look, I told
approval
you.
from the Chief Justice of the Superior Court to impanel a special statewide grand jury in order to conduct an independent fact-finding investigation into the circumstances surrounding the death of Enrique Delgado-Garcia. The impanelment of a special statewide grand jury enabled us to compel the testimony of witnesses, to memorialize testimony under oath, to subpoena relevant documents and information, and to gather the facts in a formal proceeding before an independent body. At each stage of the process, the investigative team and I met with the family of Enrique Delgado-Garcia to update them on the status of the investigation. We met with the family this past weekend, and we spoke to them this morning. Over the course of the past 9 months, the grand jury has heard sworn testimony from over 150 witnesses, the vast majority of whom have been state police officers.
Wow.
And the grand jury has reviewed close to 350 physical exhibits,
Wow.
the vast majority of which relate to policies, procedures, activities, and events at the State Police Training Academy. The evidence gathered by the special statewide grand jury has revealed that in the days and weeks prior to September 12th, 2024, members of the State Police Training Academy committed a series of wanton and reckless acts in connection with various defensive tactics and physical confrontation training exercises conducted at the academy. The facts and circumstances underlying the wanton and reckless conduct include both A, affirmative acts by academy staff, and B, the failure of academy staff to take certain actions or omissions that they had.
They were fucking around. They weren't taking this serious, man.
No, well, just a comment here. Everyone note what he just said. They made affirmative acts and they failed to do things, which is an omission. I am very interested as this case proceeds as to what affirmative acts these 4 individuals did that caused or contributed to the death of Enrique.
So what I know, I'm sorry to cut you off.
Okay.
From what I know, on the 11th, that's September 11th, there was a match, and it was with the same recruit. So Enrique fought the same recruit at that time, cadet recruit. I think it's recruit.
Right.
Fought the same recruit. And from what I heard, after that first match, he had complained, and the quote that I heard was, "My head doesn't feel right." And what I'm guessing is that, and I talked about this in my first stream when I came back and started talking about this, is that recruits or cadets have to be evaluated at all times, physically, mentally, and through this entire program. And what I'm guessing that this is a failure in that breakdown to intervene and do your job as a supervisor and evaluate. And I can tell you this, he was severely overmatched in skill in this boxing tactical exercise. Enrique had the height and probably the overall stature, but the person that he was matched with was clearly skill level in this type of defensive tactic exercise. So the skill level was much more there, and that should have never happened. From what I understand is that cadets come in on the first day and they should be evaluated every single day so something like this doesn't happen.
Right. And especially because this type of training, boxing related training, which I've heard rumblings may go by the wayside if it hasn't completely
It's gone.
altogether.
Yeah, it's gone. It's gone, man.
And I read something that said it's going to be or has been replaced by jujitsu. I don't know.
It's what they're yeah.
So and I think that's great. And if you get into an altercation, a physical sparring altercation with someone, they might be taller than you, they might be shorter than you, have a better center of gravity, be a better fighter. It might be an unmatch from the outset if you got into a fight at a local bar. But when you are training to become a fighter, which this is part of or was part of the curriculum there, these higher ups need to be able to measure the safety and well-being of their cadets. They have to be able to say, like, I'm going to assess your height, weight, training ability,
Right.
fighting and sparring
Yes.
ability. They
Yes.
have to do that.
Yeah.
And also one last point on this,
Sure.
because as far as Enrique is concerned, I'm not convinced, and I would like to see what the discovery reveals. I'm not convinced that these officers are even properly trained to recognize and or to send for treatment a cadet who's complaining of a concussion-like symptom and the like. Like, what is the medical training of this level personnel, if anything? This will all, and the reason I'm going into these nuances, this will all ultimately parlay into the viability of a future civil rights action, a civil case on behalf of the family.
And there were multiple times through this defensive boxing tactical exercise that this could have been stopped. And there were signs that it should have been stopped.
Right.
And it was not. It was it was allowed to be continued. And that's what put Enrique in this position to ultimately lose his life. Let's go back to David Myers here.
Legal duty to perform during their daily interactions with the trainees, who were under their care, guidance, and supervision. The wanted
So I just want to answer this really quick. Diane says, common sense tells me they shouldn't have sent him for training. And Diane, I encourage you to go back and watch my first show about this that I did 3 days ago. Enrique Delgado-Garcia was medically cleared to enter the academy. So he was physically fit. He passed all the required medical checks. And I can even remember talking with his family and said, we can't even remember the last time he complained about a bellyache or something like that. He never did. So he was medically cleared to enter the academy. All right, so here we go.
Resulted in Enrique Delgado-Garcia suffering concussion-like symptoms as the result of unauthorized, unapproved, and unsupervised boxing-related sparring exercises that occurred during academy training activities on Wednesday, September 11, 2024. The wanton and reckless conduct culminated in Enrique Delgado-Garcia suffering multiple blunt force injuries.
Let's go back. I just want to go back a little bit so people hear that I was talking over that. Here we go.
Authorized, unapproved, and unsupervised boxing-related.
That's on the 11th.
Certain actions or omissions that they had a legal duty to perform during their daily interactions with the trainees, who were under their care, guidance, and supervision. The wanton and reckless conduct resulted in Enrique Delgado-Garcia suffering concussion-like symptoms as the result of unauthorized, unapproved, and unsupervised boxing-related sparring exercises.
So were they fucking around on the day before, Nan? Is that what we're probably thinking here? And there weren't any supervisors there, or
and I'm sitting here writing, furiously, because I just had the same question. In the failure to supervise, I'm getting a sense that there may have been.
Are you involved, and then you're not acting as a supervisor? Is what that's the thing we don't know here about that prior day.
And one other point he raised was this was under the care, the guidance, and the supervision of the law enforcement personnel there. And most importantly to me, besides care and supervision, is guidance. I have a feeling, although I'm not certain, that these types of exercises are meant to be educational. They're supposed to be personnel there who are not only watching, but making sure there's no dirty fighting going on, that everyone's fit and feeling okay, but to teach them how to fight better. And I wonder if that fell by the wayside as well.
That's what I'm guessing.
That occurred during academy training activities on Wednesday, September 11, 2024. The wanton and reckless conduct culminated in Enrique Delgado-Garcia suffering multiple blunt force injuries to the head and massive brain bleeding as the result of the failure of academy staff to intervene and bring a stop to a competitive boxing match between Mr. Delgado-Garcia and a fellow trainee that occurred during academy training activities the following morning on Thursday, September 12, 2024. Mr. Delgado-Garcia died the following day, September 13, 2024, as a result of the head injuries sustained during the recruit-on-recruit boxing match that Thursday morning. Based upon the facts and the law, the evidence gathered by the grand jury compels criminal prosecution of certain members of the Academy's Defensive Tactics Unit, the supervisor of the unit, and 3 full-time instructors.
Jennifer Penton.
These individuals engaged in ongoing interactions with Enrique Delgado-Garcia on September 11, when he suffered concussion-like symptoms, and on September 12, when he was knocked unconscious. These individuals also had direct management and direct control over the physical training exercises themselves. Factually and legally, each of these individuals owed a duty of care to Enrique Delgado-Garcia and to his fellow trainees. Each of them interacted with Mr. Delgado-Garcia and his fellow trainees on a daily basis. And each of them committed a series of...
I'm going to clear this up really quick. So this is the boxing in this at the program. And again, if you haven't watched it, Natalie, go back and watch my first show because I show an example of this. 2 rounds, 1 minute each. 2 rounds, 1 minute each. Okay. It's extreme. It's supposed to simulate, being attacked in the field and seeing how you're going to respond to that. So it's not like they're learning all these extreme boxing skills and feinting and sparring. And it's a quick piece of the program that is put in place to simulate, being attacked in the field and how are you going to respond? And I show an example of that on my first show. So please go back and watch that and you'll kind of get, so they were wearing the protective gear. They had headgear on. They had 12-ounce gloves. They did not wear chest protectors, but all that protective gear was there in place. All right, here we go.
Reckless acts and omissions that resulted in Enrique Delgado-Garcia's death. Given their roles and responsibilities on the Defensive Tactics Unit and their control over the training exercises, the wanton and reckless conduct committed by these individuals violated 2 criminal statutes in particular. General Laws, Chapter 265, Section 40, alleging the crime of causing serious bodily injury to a person participating in a training program involving physical exercise, and General Laws, Chapter 265, Section 13, alleging the crime of involuntary manslaughter. In addition, the evidence demonstrated that when the supervisor of the Defensive Tactics Unit was asked specifically under oath before the grand jury when it was that she first learned about Enrique Delgado-Garcia's concussion-like symptoms, she repeatedly responded falsely. Given the circumstances of this investigation and the nature of the information at issue, her testimony before the grand jury violated General Laws, Chapter 268, Section 1, alleging the crime of perjury. Now, each of these charges are merely accusations. Each of these individuals is presumed to be innocent unless and until proven guilty in a court of law. These individuals have not been and will not be arrested. I have requested that the court issue a summons for their appearance at an arraignment hearing to be scheduled in the near future in coordination with the court and with their individual attorneys. With respect to each of these charges and each of these individuals.
You just said, what's that, Nan?
Well, I'm sitting here taking notes and I'm also watching your chat, but did I hear him say that they were not arrested?
They're not arresting them.
Why?
Yeah.
I mean, that's why I said, because if that is what he said, then, you don't show any favoritism. They were indicted. They need to be arrested and formally arraigned. Are we cutting corners and showing some type of, wink, wink, I'll scratch your back, you scratch mine. You guys just voluntarily show up on your own recognizance and plead at an arraignment? That is really bothersome to me, unless, and I always admit when I don't know something, unless that this is a very common occurrence where individuals facing certain charges can do that in the Commonwealth. That doesn't happen on my planet. You get indicted, you get arrested.
I don't know. If you have a serious charge, they usually bring you and they arraign you in front of a judge and they read it.
Doesn't the word involuntary manslaughter or just the word manslaughter mean something to people? I want to go back. Questions.
There was a Patriots player. What was his name?
Oh man, you're asking the wrong person.
This is quite a few years ago, and he got indicted for involuntary manslaughter. He hit someone when they were changing a tire, and I think that he was just over the legal limit. And I don't know. I can't forget the case, but he was formally arraigned. Like they brought him in involuntary.
That was the Aaron Hernandez case. Okay.
No. It has nothing to do with Aaron Hernandez. No.
I have no idea. What I can tell you is there's a reason why there's a certain process, and that's set forth actually in the Constitution. So like you don't just say, hey, we're going to have you come in for your arraignment, but we're not going to arrest you. The arrest process is important, and we can have a whole separate show, if you would ever invite me
Yeah,
back,
of course.
Brian, on the fact that the failure to arrest them, if that is what I heard him say, that deprives both sides, the prosecution, Commonwealth, and the defendants, those four, from potential opportunities to have Miranda rights read, to be custodially investigated and interrogated. Like, there are constitutional nuances here that were apparently skipped, and I have questions.
Okay, let's play this here.
I have intentionally not referred to any of the specific underlying facts that were gathered and considered by the grand jury. Given my ethical and legal obligations, this is neither the appropriate time nor place to do so. Given the paramilitary structure of the State Police Training Academy, various members of the Academy command staff had the authority and the ability to address many of the circumstances surrounding Enrique Delgado-Garcia's death. At the same time, the evidence before the grand jury demonstrated that the nature and extent of their personal knowledge, personal involvement, and personal participation in the specific acts and omissions that resulted in Enrique Delgado-Garcia's death were insufficient to support criminal charges. Based upon the evidence, a reasoned and responsible evaluation of the facts and the law does not support criminal prosecution of members of the Academy's command staff, nor does my professional respect for and commitment to the rule of law. Insofar as I have shared with you generally that certain wanton and reckless acts and omissions compel the criminal prosecution of certain members of the Academy's Defensive Tactics Unit, I want to ensure that certain additional facts are made abundantly clear. Based upon the testimony and the exhibits before the grand jury, there is no evidence that Enrique Delgado-Garcia was targeted in any way.
Okay.
There is no evidence that anyone, Academy staff, fellow trainees, or any others, harbored any personal animosity towards Enrique Delgado-Garcia. There is no evidence that anyone acted with deliberation, premeditation, or malice.
Okay.
One final comment. I take no personal satisfaction, none, from where these facts have led. But I am confident that the investigative team and I have carried out our assignment professionally, responsibly, and independently. And I'm confident that we have done so the right way and for the right reasons. Thank you.
Thank you, Attorney Meyer. I'm happy to take a few questions.
Attorney General, a comment on the trainee who was involved in this boxing exercise. Any consequences for this investigation?
Not in this investigation.
And when it
There you go, right there. That cleared up the question. The trainee that was involved in this exercise, is there going to be any charges? No. No.
Yeah. And also, just to note, while you've paused, Meyer was saying there was no evidence of targeting, no intent, no animosity. That does not necessarily remove the aspect that this could have been a hazing related event. Just so we're clear at this point.
Sure.
He didn't say that's off the table.
Yeah.
And I will just share what's being shared right now from the team is more detail on the charges and those who charges.
I turned on captions because it's going to be hard to hear the press, because I don't ever mic the press, but it's very annoying because you just hear and then they respond. You know what I mean? And you're like, what the hell did they say? So I turned on captions for everybody.
Thank you.
Attorney General, when it comes to this investigation with the cost reaching $700,000, can you speak to the taxpayers on that investment and the results that were shared today?
What a silly question.
So my job.
That was the dumbest question I've ever heard in this so far. On this 700. You know what? $700,000, well worth the money paid to investigate this.
Agreed.
In this case, given the conflict that existed for DA Early, was to ensure that the family got an independent investigation that would be thorough, that would be handled well, with integrity, a standard of excellence, and devoid of any conflict or appearance of conflict. By reputation and integrity, David was one of the folks I considered and ultimately hired him knowing he would do a thorough job in following the facts, the law, and of course, reporting to the public where appropriate, where his investigation has led, which he's done today. He gets nothing out of this. He charged below market rate to ensure that a thorough investigation was done, and that's exactly what happened here, and that's what the family deserved.
I'm not so sure about that, Brian.
What's that?
Look, it was money well spent. I agree with you. That's a lot of money. I'm not saying it was a wasted amount of money. What I'm saying is, ain't no way that's market rate. I think David Meyer, my opinion, not that of the show, I think he patted his pocket on this. But nonetheless, he unveiled some important issues, but that's a lot of money.
About non-criminal findings, like Attorney Meyer mentioned, that there might not be cause to prosecute other folks, but just do we get more information on that?
Excuse me.
So it's an ongoing investigation, and as it unfolds,
Still
Attorney
ongoing.
Meyer, and where appropriate, either together or separately, will continue to update the public on what can be shared. It's obviously an ongoing investigation, so we have to be extremely careful. That being said, Attorney Meyer was tasked with an independent investigation to look into the facts and the circumstances surrounding Enrique's death, and that is what he has focused on. In addition to that, I also think it's equally important that the administration, EOPS, MSP, which I know Colonel Noble is already doing, look at reforms to bring about. I know that is underway, and I fully support the Colonel in those endeavors as they go forward. And of course, as more becomes public and able to share, I will do that.
What is the current status of these family members? Are they currently on the force, or are they on?
That's a question for MSP.
Are you able to share where they will be summoned
They're
and who will be
suspended,
taking
by
over
the
case,
way.
who will be leading the case?
The indictments were just unsealed this morning. And as I indicated, we just had an opportunity to meet with the family over the weekend and again this morning. And the court process was then undertaken. And as I said, I've been in contact with counsel for each of these 4 individuals, and we will coordinate with the court to schedule an arraignment hearing in the near future.
David, can you expand a little bit on the perjury charge? I know you can't go into too many underlying facts, but how serious is that in your mind, a sergeant committing a perjury on this?
Well, I'm not going to offer any of my personal opinions, respectfully. I think I outlined within my ethical and legal parameters and obligations what the allegations are, and everything else will play out in court.
Will we? So I'm curious about this, Nan. When they go in and read the formal charges starting on April 2nd, will we hear more about this? Will they have a full? Probably not.
No, but usually not. Not more than you're seeing in the indictments themselves. But one thing that he just mentioned that also bothers me is that, he's been communicating with the attorneys for these law enforcement officers, and they're going to work to schedule an arraignment. That's atypical, meaning you don't schedule an arraignment, you get arrested, a judge sets down the date for your arraignment, and absent any really important, unavoidable calendar conflict, that's when you go. And your attorneys drop everything and go. So right now,
You think there's going to be sweetheart deals here? Yeah.
I do. Sweetheart deals are just some favoritism that's going to bother me.
Yeah, I mean, you don't schedule an arraignment. I kind of feel like they're just being guided along the way here now, hearing more about this. They just want this to go away is what it is. They want it to go away, Nan.
And usually what you'll see is not only the arrests, but you'll see, they'll spend a period of time in jail often, and the arraignment's often as early as the next morning. You know what I mean?
Look at Karen.
Right. I was just going to say.
Look at fucking Karen.
She couldn't even, or she had a fight to get a pair of jeans. You know what I mean?
Right.
But she had to spend the night in jail. And these are officers who don't get arrested. I don't want to report fake news, but that is what I heard. And they get to
said. They didn't arrest him.
That's an angle here. If I were focusing on anything, I'd focus on that.
All right, we got about another 30 seconds in the interview here, the press conference here, and then I want to squeeze in a little bit of what the perceived culture may be there in the academy. But here we go.
How about you? Do you want to comment on a state police sergeant committing perjury allegedly in this case?
I would just echo what Attorney Myers echoed to ensure that this case continues to unfold, respecting the rights of all involved, and of course, due process. More will be shared as it unfolds in the courts, and he will share more when that's appropriate.
That's the last question, guys. Thanks, everyone.
That's it with that one. All right, let's hear from Gianni Baptiste. This was on September 7, 2024, just days after Enrique Delgado-Garcia was killed at the academy. And let's hear what he had to say and share about what he had to say about the culture. And he actually knew Enrique and actually used to drive with him to the academy. So here we go.
It's really hard. But like I said, for people like me or people like Delgado, Spanish, or Black, it's really hard.
New at 6, a former classmate of the Massachusetts State Police recruit who died after training says the State Police Academy is run more like a fraternity and not everyone is welcome. The WBZ I-team was the first to report Enrique Delgado-Garcia was critically injured in the boxing ring at the academy.
It's no ring.
Thanks for
Why do you
staying
keep
with us
saying
tonight.
that?
I'm Lisa
Stop
Hughes.
saying ring.
Wade, the former recruit who spoke with the I-team, says he experienced hazing at the police academy and says Black and Hispanic people were treated differently. WBZ Chief Investigator Cheryl Fiandaca here now with the exclusive story. Cheryl?
Well, Lisa, David, the recruit, says he is heartbroken about his friend and former classmate. He says he expected the police academy to be tough and was prepared for difficult training. But he says he was not prepared for the harassment, humiliation, and discrimination he suffered. And after 18 weeks of training, the police cut him from the class. The I-team was there when he was finally ready to unpack his academy bags.
This is everything that I have in my bag.
For this former Massachusetts State Police recruit, these photos showing him wearing an academy uniform are all that's left of his dream.
Since I came here in the country, my dream was like to be a state trooper.
The state police dismissed the Haitian immigrant from the academy just 6 weeks before graduation. Enrique Delgado-Garcia was his carpool buddy and his classmate. He died last week after sources say he was seriously injured during a boxing training exercise where trainees pair up and fight each other.
He was a good kid. He was really, really good, helping me, helping everybody. The academy himself is really hard. For people like me or people like Delgado, Spanish, or Black, it's really hard. They make it really hard for you. I know they don't like us. They show you that.
He does not know what happened to his friend, but says he was subjected to hazing and harassment from the second week of training.
The first thing that's gonna wake me up, everybody come to my home. They make everybody come to my home. Go home, go home, go home, go home, go home. Like imagine like 180 people like
Jesus Christ
telling you go home. You don't deserve to be here. It was a lot for me.
An Army reservist, he survived boot camp and 4 years in the military, but says his experience at the State Police Academy was more like a fraternity hazing instead of elite law enforcement training.
Making me sweep the floor with my uniform, like in my stomach, like it's not a training. What is the training? And that make me counting breaks after everybody sleeping. And like trooper telling me like, he will do everything that in his power to not graduate because I don't deserve to be here.
All of this heartbreaking to hear for his wife and young family who sacrificed so he could go to the academy and realize his dream.
We come here and for him to want to do better. And you get there, you face with you being humiliated, you being discriminated. Training is training. I understand that. I'm in the military. I know boot camp. Training is training. You have to teach your trainees how to really protect themselves out there. But there's nowhere it says in the book that you need to break someone down so low to where they can't study, they can't pass a common sense exam.
He was let go by the state police on August 23rd.
Since that, in the second week on the academy until the 18 weeks, it was really hell for me. It was really hell every day for me.
The recruit tells us he plans to visit his former classmate's family to pay his respects. The I-team reached out to the state police for comment, but we did not hear back. Lisa?
Let's do this before we comment, Nan. Let's play this. Now, this is a year into Colonel Noble being part of, obviously being in charge of the Mass State Police and Mass State Police Academy. We'll play this little clip here, and then I want to hear comments. Here we go. Asked about the culture of the Mass State Police, and let's watch his reaction.
New this morning, nearly a year into the job, and the head of Massachusetts State Police is sitting down for his first interviews.
Our Ben Simino had the chance to ask some direct questions, including what it's been like to walk into an agency hit with scandal after scandal in recent years.
What has surprised you about the culture, if anything? The biggest surprise is that.
Did you see that, Nan? The pause. Watch. Watch. Oh no, I'm gonna get.
He's
the
like, what am I gonna say?
Yeah. Oh, come on! Don't do this to me. Hang on. All right, let me reshare my screen. Yeah, let me reshare my screen. Here we go. Watch.
In recent years.
What has surprised you about the culture, if anything?
The biggest surprise is that I have found that the women and men of the state police.
That's bad.
Understand the moment, and frankly, I wasn't sure how much resistance I might get coming in as the first outsider. But from the day I arrived and have been meeting with the team, from the rank and file all the way up to the top command staff, there is an energy within this department, an energy to move forward, and that has been my biggest pleasant surprise.
Colonel Jeffrey Noble was appointed by Governor Healy last fall, the first time someone from outside Massachusetts police ranks has been tapped to lead the agency. Tonight at 6, Ben takes on some of those.
All right.
All right,
Nan, comments
an energy. I mean, look, I understand Noble's been brought in and he's trying to effectuate change, but if you're not going to come forward, Noble, and absolutely recognize publicly that there were systematic breakdowns, then the public up there is going to lose confidence and trust in you, whether you're from Massachusetts or not. The Baptiste family, I found both of their comments, but most notably, I don't know if his name is Gianni, but whatever his first name is, the husband,
Gianni.
His firsthand account of his experience and the fact that he knew Enrique, that was very appalling to me, because it does appear that it was his experience that there was some type of either racial, ethnic, cultural component to harassment, discrimination, bullying, and the like that was going on there. That may tie into hazing. And his wife's comment really resonated with me as well, because these are two, it appears they have military background. These are two individuals who've served for the military in whatever capacity that they have. But she was commenting that, you don't have to break someone down when they're in a training program for the police. And I have a feeling the devil's going to be in the details with that. So, ultimately, I think there is a cultural issue going on there, not just within the state police academy itself, but there may also be deep-seated discrimination issues going on as well.
Yeah. I'm going to be, like I said, I'm going to be very curious to see and I don't think there's going to be a lot, but what other details we can get out of this. But I do like that we're in this position, but it makes me a little bit nervous that there's some fluffing going on here. And I hope this just doesn't get swept under the rug, which, listen, if from the academy standpoint, this Mass State Police, you just want this, and I hate to say this, just to go away. That's what they're thinking on this part. But ultimately, I mean, accountability, there can't be sweetheart deals here. This needs to go all the way. And then it needs to be, like I said, as this concludes, hopefully this is used as an example in all the academies going forward of things that just not to do, make it right.
Well, and the issue of potential favoritism or sweetheart deals, what concerns me about that most is that if there are pleas that are entered and, kind of quiet, hush resolution to these charges at whatever level, the bigger systemic and cultural problems may not be resolved. So sometimes you need a pound of flesh and public display of just reconciliation and justice of what's gone on. Justice for Enrique, for there to effectuate real change, because you're just not going to get that level of transparency from Colonel Noble or anyone else. So I'm concerned about the favoritism that I'm at least first seeing now, and we'll have to see how that arraignment goes. That'll be very telling as well.
Yeah, I'm curious to see. And from as far as I know, there is going to be a camera in the courtroom. And as far as I know right now, and I know if something will change. I'm not if what the proceeding is going to happen there, but I do know that 3 of them will be indicted on Thursday. Go ahead, Nan.
Someone in your chat mentioned that there has been some discussion about individuals being granted immunity for testifying at the grand jury. I too had read that, not from the source you cited, but not you, Brian, the person in the chat. But I did see today that at least it's spoken about 2 individuals who testified that were high level, did provide testimony at the grand jury, and indeed they were granted immunity. I don't know if that's been verified or validated, but that's very common. Just
I
so
would, yeah, and I would just be very careful with what you're hearing and seeing,
Agreed.
and I know people are going to seek out, other channels to talk about this, and I'm going to continue to talk about it. And I have some really close sources in this. So again, if you want, answers and a level set, you can come here and watch my channel. And listen, I encourage tell everybody to watch whatever coverage out there they want to watch. I don't watch other channels. I've been very clear about this because I like to keep my clarity and how I present here. I don't like to use other things, what people say or whatever they talk about on their channel. I just kind of stick to my thing and do my own research and my reporting. And that's how it is. And plus I work, so I don't have time to watch all these channels.
Yeah. Yeah, I would definitely say this is where I'm going to keep coming back to for insightful reporting and coverage of Enrique's case. And if it is indeed proven that there was substantiated proof of immunity being granted, that happens all the time, folks.
Yeah.
It doesn't necessarily. Sometimes you have to do that. Sometimes the government will offer proffer agreements to individuals to come forward to really explain how the sausage is made so they can get to the deep-rooted particulars of who was at fault. So that's not necessarily, to me, indicative of favoritism and the like. It's a very common occurrence.
And sometimes to get to certain areas in an investigation that has to be granted. I mean, what did we just find out? Almost 150, he said almost 150 people came forward, and most of them were state police. So, there were people at that academy that came forward and gave information. So yeah, maybe there was a deal made. And again, what did I talk about? What are the 2 things that kind of roadblocked this case? Lawyers and union reps. I'm sure there were deals made to give information.
Yep. It's sometimes the price that has to be paid. And that sometimes means that those who were granted immunity were potentially culpable, but a decision is made by prosecutors as to whether it's important enough for them to offer immunity and to run forward with the charges. Proffer agreements are a very tangled web, which I'd be happy to talk about at a subsequent time.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, I think that's going to wind up. Hey, I got you under an hour and 20. I usually like to do 90 minutes, which is good. But listen, I appreciate you coming over here, lending your time tonight, going through these indictments with us, giving your expertise in this field. And I'm curious to see how this is all going to land on Thursday with the 3 indictments. And then Casey Lamont, I believe it's the 12th or the 14th. His will be read in April. And I'm going to continue to keep, talking about this. And hopefully we get some type of documents that come out of this hearing, but I'm not sure. It might be impounded and not put out there in the public. I'm sure this is going to be pretty private, the information that's going to be in this case.
Yeah, we'll start. If this hums along to a trial, we'll start getting some real answers. And this is one to watch. A lot of people have waited a long time. So I'm a big proponent for justice for Enrique. If there's any assistance you need as you go through this journey with your reporting and with the family, please let me know.
Yeah, absolutely. All right, everybody, we're going to get out of here. And if you haven't watched my 2 prior shows, I did one on Colonel Noble last night, and I did a case overview the night before. So go back and check out those shows in this series. And we're going to continue to talk about Enrique's case here going forward. And I'm just hoping this moves quick through the courts, that it doesn't become a delay and it's like 2 years and we're waiting. I really want to get some resolve and some solace for this family. They deserve it. They've been waiting a long time, and they've been in an extreme amount of pain. This family has suffered for a very long time, and I'm hope we get some resolve in this case.
I do too. I do too. Keep watching, folks. We'll see what happens.
All right, everybody. That's going to be it. Again, this is Attorney Nan Gallagher. Thank you for your time. I'm Brian, LTL Media. Make sure to like, share, and subscribe. Comment below. And I appreciate all my mods, my subscribers, and members that came over and joined us tonight. I really do appreciate this. And we'll keep an eye on this case and keep reporting for you. Just glitched, by the way. All right, everybody. We're out of here. Bye. Have a good night.